Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Let's Talk About Sleep, the book. Let's Talk About Sleep. The link to this, the Amazon link, is in the description box down below, so please click on that. If you're so inclined, please like this channel. Please subscribe. When we get to 1,000, one lucky viewer will get a signed copy of said book. And what we're going to talk about today, okay, and again, as I always say, these videos are for educational purposes only. Speaking of, what we're going to talk today is about the basics of sleep. And in many of my videos previously, I've been mentioning these things, but I haven't really described them. So that's what we're going to do today. Okay? Everybody's heard of REM sleep. Okay? REM, Rapid Eye Movement Sleep. Also a band from the 80s. They got some good hits, so check them out. What is REM sleep? Rapid Eye Movement Sleep. What happens is when our brain goes into sleep, and I'm going to have another video about non-REM next. You'll see here the naming is not very creative, but what happens in REM sleep is the brain goes into a state where we think, during dreams, we're actually filtering in and out the things that we do need or don't need. Okay, which is why, as kind of the brain is going through this files of transferring, let's say, why dream content has like this, one minute you're in a pyramid, the next minute you're flying through space. Why it has this kind of disjointed appearance, because the brain is either filtering in or filtering out what it deems important or unimportant. Okay, we think nobody really knows. But during REM sleep, what happens is the body goes into a state of paralysis naturally. So when we transition from wake to sleep, the body, normally, the muscles become relaxed, right? That's not a surprise. Everything, including our breathing, our heart rate goes down, all of our muscles relax, and the body goes into a rested state. When we go into REM sleep, what happens there is the muscles go from being relaxed to actually paralyzed. So if this is normal when they're awake, this is when they're asleep. When they're in REM sleep, it's like this. Okay, so just totally floppy. The reason for that is because during REM sleep we have this dream imagery. We have these. We actually dream throughout the night, but we tend to remember the ones in REM sleep. They tend to be the most emotionally charged, the most action oriented. Okay, so Mother Nature, God, whatever you want to say, has designed us to go into paralysis during REM sleep, during this dream sleep. So that way we don't act out our dreams, right? If you think of it from evolutionary perspective, if primitive man was, living in a cave somewhere up on, 2,000 feet up on a mountain, and they started having a dream where they were fighting something off, what would happen? They would fall off the mountain and die. So having that paralysis is important from a evolutionary perspective. But what happens is basically what happens is this. You've heard people say sleep cycles, right? We have sleep cycles. What that means is that we go through a series of non-REM, okay, and I'm going to have another video about that, non-REM, then we end with a period of REM, then the brain either wakes up or goes to lighter sleep, and then that process happens again, okay, another cycle, and then we end with a period of REM. And we have 4 or 5 of those over the course of a night. A normal sleep cycle is about 90 minutes, okay, on average, anywhere from 60 to 120 minutes. Okay, and we end with a period of REM, and then the person, like I said, begins a cycle anew. All right? So that's what happens normally. And then as the night goes along, the periods of REM in each of those cycles becomes longer and longer and longer, okay? To the idea where at the end of the night, at the end of these 4 or 5 cycles, we're waking up after a period of REM, okay? So we wake up after a dream, let's say, okay? That's the normal circumstance. Doesn't happen to everybody, and it's not necessarily wrong if somebody is not having that, but that is kind of what they show in the textbook, okay? Now, where could this become an issue? Like I said before, in someone who has obstructive sleep apnea, if their sleep is very chopped up, they may not get into REM sleep. Okay, they may not get any REM sleep or a very minimal REM sleep, because as soon as they get there and the body goes into a paralyzed state, boom, they have a stoppage of breathing, the brain kind of wakes them up. So what you'll hear a lot of times when people have let's say obstructive sleep apnea, and we put them on CPAP, they'll say, geez, doc, I never dreamed before. I don't remember ever dreaming, but now I do. And the reason for that is because their brain is able to kind of get where it's supposed to go, for lack of a better term. Okay? So that's kind of what REM sleep is. It's a paralyzed state. It's when we dream, and it happens every 90 minutes or so. There are certain conditions like sleep apnea where REM is affected. Okay? Narcolepsy is another one of those. Here I just said, if it takes us about 90 minutes at least to get into dream sleep, during a 20-minute or a 25-minute nap, somebody should not be dreaming, okay? People who have narcolepsy, they go into REM sleep very quickly, so that's one of the telltale signs, okay? So that's what REM sleep is, rapid eye movement sleep. And what's interesting about it is, so I said the body is paralyzed, right? Yet, there are some muscles which are still working. One is the diaphragm, right? So the person can continue to breathe so they don't die. Another is the inner ear. It's called the stapedius muscle, okay, which may dampen sound or so. But the most important thing, or not the most important thing, but the thing most relevant to what we're talking about is rapid eye movement, right? What does that mean? So, I mean, it's kind of creepy to do this, but if you watch somebody sleeping, right, and they are in REM sleep, with their eyes closed even, you'll see the eyes kind of darting back and forth, okay? So you can kind of see that person may be in REM sleep. Okay, so the eyes are darting back and forth. You can actually see that during a sleep test too, which is pretty cool. Yeah. So that's just the background of what REM sleep is, why it's important. There have been studies on not humans, but on rats, where they let the rats sleep, but as soon as they got into REM sleep, they woke them up. And what they found after 2 weeks of that, not getting any REM sleep, the rats started to lose weight. Temperature started going up. They started having all these, sort of losing hair. Hair was falling out, and then they died. Okay, so REM sleep is very, very important. We're not sure of the ins and outs yet of it, of the specifics of why it's needed. But we definitely know the brain needs it, the body needs it, and that's what it's all about. Okay, and a band called REM. So that's the video for today. If you have questions, please drop them in the comment section below. If there's something you want me to talk about, please drop it in the comment section. I will get to all of those questions and comments every month. I make a video on that. When we get to 1,000 subscribers, like I said, somebody will get a signed copy of this. If you are so inclined, please like this video. Please share it with your friends and family. And until next time, sleep well.